There's been dramas at the Dogs just through their results and the way that they've performed this year. All of us expected them to go a hell of a lot better considering the players that they had bought. And in the start of the year that they did have, they were on the improve. And at one point, you know, after a few rounds, you're thinking they could possibly push for the 8. And you could see the systems were in place. And it looked like that Serrato had his hands all over a team that were going to improve as the season progressed. But that just hasn't even nearly happened. What do we think about this one?
The expectation on the Bulldogs was for improvement, and I think on watching their performance last week and in recent times, they're not going to finish with the wooden spoon, but in my books, they're the worst team this year. At least the Tigers and the Dragons are turning up and having a crack. Last weekend, the Bulldogs were pathetic. And the coach, you know, the coach talks about the fact that, you know, we've got to get the right sort of players here. Well, I'm pretty sure all the players at the Bulldogs have been brought to the club. Like, they didn't walk in off the street and just take a locker. It's his job to get them
That's
performing.
what I'm struggling with. Is that
the coach didn't bring them in.
Who brought them in?
The club did,
Gus.
though.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the coach...
But the Gus and the coach
season
are hand in hand, right? Like, they're hand in hand with the decision-making.
Well, hang on. So, no. Phil Gould said to Cameron Ciraldo, I don't want you to come this season.
Yeah.
And Cam said, no, I want to get started now,
Fair call.
which is what we're seeing
Fair
now,
call.
right? So he wouldn't have had a say on every player on that roster.
Yes.
And any coach in his first season gets to know the players of which are going to suit his style, what type of character they are.
So who's he not happy with?
Well, the ones we're seeing cleaned out.
Is there going to be more of a clean out? Because that's the bottom line. You've got a good relationship with Serrato.
But the catch is, though, bro.
We're hearing the players complaining about training. I'm hearing the coach isn't happy with a lot of the players there. So are they going to have a clean out?
So the catch is to that answer, though, Braith, is you can only get rid of what you can bring in. And the roster at this, the open market at this point in time, there's not a plethora of players out there.
So he's going to keep...
But I'll answer your question.
They'll keep players they're not happy with.
No, well, there's some are on contract.
Yeah.
So they will have to keep a collection of players.
So how do they turn this around quick then?
Well, I'll say this. The Bulldogs have a better roster this year than they didn't have last year. Like Mick Potter had them performing better than they are right now. And this guy's got a better roster right now. Dean Pay didn't have a better roster. Yeah. They were playing better under Dean Pay than they are right now. I'll go over to the fact that Andrew Webster has gone across to the Warriors this season and somehow unlocked them. That's a coach's job.
Yep.
A coach's job, regardless of whether he thinks he can win the comp with them, is to get the best out of those players.
Yep.
And at the moment, they're not getting the best out of those players.
I'm seeing a different Reid Marnie, guys. I'm seeing let's think of the Parramatta Reid Marnie. It was an all-effort dummy half. Everything was effort-based, right?
Have they changed these games?
Well, I don't. All I'm seeing is a dummy half trying to come up with a play, trying to come up with an attacking set. He's going away from what made Reid Marnie special. Is Matt Burton a 5'8"? I think that's worth a genuine discussion.
All as I know is I've played with some really good footy sides, and we didn't win every year, but when we did win, we were the hardest working team in the competition. And I'm sure that when you were there, there's just a thread that goes through every jersey that the side that normally wins is the hardest working. And there's a bit of luck, right? There's injuries, you get through that, you get through Origin. There's a lot that's got to go your way. But the hardest working, the hardest pre-season you had, put you. And then when he's trying to train them hard, they're whinging.
Yeah, and do you recall the Brisbane Broncos, Gordy?
Steve Reid, Darren Britt, Craig Polamauna. You can just keep naming these guys. Barry Ward. These guys were not big name players on huge dollars at the Bulldogs. They just had the Bulldogs DNA instilled inside of them.
Terry Lamb said it that the physio said you're not allowed to run. And I heard him just on a podcast a couple of weeks ago. You're not allowed to run. You're old. You're 35, and they weren't going to win without him. On Friday afternoon, every day, he'd go for a 10K run. He knew that he needed it mentally to put himself with his teammates. So there's a hard-working guy. So you've got to pay the price. That's what that's telling me. Terry Lamb needed to pay the price, even one of the greatest players ever to play on a Bulldogs jersey.
You clean the roster
I believe in Serrato, right?
But then who are you going to put in there? You think Gus is smart enough to have built a good roster?
At this point in time.
Wouldn't you?
Yeah, absolutely.
Have they what about the players they've bought now?
They're coming in. Jamin Salmon.
Yeah.
Played in a premiership team.
Crichton.
Played in a premiership team. What?
Oh, God.
Blake Taft from South Sydney, good player.
But is he a starting player? Is Jamie and Sammy going to be in your starting side? Like it seems to me they're building a team of interchange players in some respects. And that's no disrespect to these guys, but the positions they're playing at their teams, that's what they're doing. And I'll go back to the fact, again, you talk about coaching. Look at the turnaround in the Dragons since there was obviously disharmony and they weren't happy there when Griffin was there. And it's changed. With Ryan Carr, he's unlocked that team and suddenly they're playing with spirit. And even though the Dragons aren't winning, they're playing with spirit. The Tigers are the same. They're playing with spirit. It's a coach's job to create an environment where the players want to play. Like that's what makes a head coach.
It's hard for me because I've spent some time with Serrato and Gus, and I actually believe they're doing it for the right reasons, and they know what they want, and they have a clear vision, and they have a goal and a work ethic and a certain way they want, a style in which they want to play. They just haven't got the right players so far. So the pressure is on these two now to get it right. I think they're the right. I do think they're the right combination. I think that the side's going to improve a lot next year, but there's just a lot of doubt now because the guys that they've put in this jersey so far just haven't upheld that Bulldog spirit and represented the club in which every Bulldog that puts on that jersey should.
What has it done to the Bulldogs' reputation, losing someone like a Payne Haas? And Gus is great at getting players. Tino, they knocked them back. Does that...
I think that's not a good sign because there's I think I'm hearing there's a few players there that are having an influence on those guys and are telling them that the training's too hard. That's what I'm hearing, and I think that's embarrassing. But
that's embarrassing. 2 seasons ago, it happened in the pre-season at the Broncos.
Yes, it did.
Right. And what had to happen there? The coach stuck to his guns, stuck to his processes, and knew what roster he wanted to go. And look at the Broncos now.
And he had to weed them out as well.
Yeah.
That's right.
I think he'll get there. I'm confident he'll get there. It's just been a terrible year for Doggies and their fans, and I feel sorry for them. Thank you, Dave. Thanks, Crawl.